Welcome back to the Mental Toughness and Body Show, everybody. This is where we turn pressure into performance. And I'm really excited about today's guest, Erin Krueger. She's a realtor, CEO, and the author of this amazing book called Capture the Culture. So, Erin's edge isn't just sales, it's how she builds the environments that make these high standards feel really normal. So, we're going to unpack about hiring for resilience, protecting culture under pressure, and using values to drive consistent wins in business, body, and life. So, Erin, it's so great to have you on the show here.
Thank you so much for having me, Rob. I'm excited.
So, I guess first question would be why property? Why real estate? What drove you to that area first?
Well, I think for me, my background was always advertising and marketing, and that's what I got my degrees in. But I grew up on a farm, and my dad was always buying real estate, as an investment. And so I've always kind of been this entrepreneur and always had an interest in it. So one day when my corporate boss asked me to do something I just didn't think was on the up and up, and I decided I was going to go out on my own, I decided that real estate was such a natural kind of blend for me to kind of dive into, really because I had such a strong interest and love for it. I just think that real estate is just such a interesting vehicle to grow wealth, to grow knowledge and skill sets. So I really just jumped in head first and didn't really know anything at the time, but I know a lot now
Yeah,
and
great.
learning more every day.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, isn't it? What would you say is, say, one of the misconceptions about your industry?
I think that people think that real estate agents are akin to maybe used car salesmen. I
Yes, and
think that
politicians and stuff.
I think that that's something that people think, and what I think that when they meet myself and other professionals that really kind of lean into real estate in their craft is that there is a low entry to real estate, but those that actually do quite well and that are very successful, there's a big difference on what they can deliver, right? The knowledge base that they bring to the table, it's kind of I say this to my clients, it's kind of like I take this to it's kind of like a haircut. If you go to one of those maybe storefront super cut
Yeah,
places and versus, a really somebody who's, a really great salon who does a really great haircut, results could vary, right? A buzz cut versus a really great cut, or a
right.
great bottle of wine versus a cheap bottle of wine, depending upon it's the results can be different depending upon who you hire. I am really committed to being better tomorrow than I am today, whether it's learning new techniques, being up on, changes in our industry. And, I think that's kind of shown over the 20 years that I've been in the real estate industry.
I notice in my area here, like it changes all the time. And I'm going to use the word, maybe it's a little inappropriate, but the real estate industry just in my suburb here seems to be very incestuous. And there's
Hmm.
probably, there could be 30 different agencies in my area alone. And it's like that they stick with somebody for a year, a couple of years, then they go to someone else and they might even come back. And like it gets very confusing on the signage that they have here. I don't know what the signage is like in the US compared to here, but they put up the big boards, with the photos and the agents and the photos of the agents and all that kind of stuff. And you're walking around and you're looking and like, hang on, wasn't that person at this person, at this place last week, and now they're somewhere else? And like I coach a couple of real estate agencies, and I say, would you? And they tell me the stories and the drama behind people moving on and everything. And I say, oh, would you take them back again? And they said, yeah. I said, what do you mean? Like, well, oh, because we need sales. But I said, but the loyalty and this, that, and the other, whatever. And anyway, I see a lot of people, they seem to get into the industry because they think it's good money, it's fast money, it's easy, but they don't realize, well, you've got to work nights, you've got to work weekends. It's just you got to run it like a business. It's not a job, not just like a 9 to 5 type of job. So I'm just curious as to, and maybe this turns to the culture here, but perhaps what you learned yourself before you started running your own business, employing staff and everything. What do you think is your point of difference compared to
Yeah.
someone else?
Real estate is really interesting because there's, like I said, there's a low barrier to entry. In the US, the average, I would say, income is about 40,000 US dollars for a real estate agent. But for somebody that can make seven, eight figures, yeah, in real estate, it takes a lot of hard work. I've worked 80 plus hours a week. My name is on the door. So if the work is not done, I'm going to do it. It's just that's kind of how I always grew up. When I'm an old farm girl, that's what I grew up on a farm. It's just, you still had to feed the animals when you were sick. You just had to do the work until it got done. And I think that's been a little differentiation for myself with my success, not only just in real estate, but just as an entrepreneur. I mean, I built businesses before and I sold them before, and I've had a lot of success in that. And so everything that I put my name on, everything that I work behind, I don't just give 100%, I give 110% on everything that I do. And I won't take a client on, I won't take anything on if I don't think that I can serve them to the highest caliber. And I think that's been the secret to our success.
Along your journey, whether you did this early on or you're starting to do it now, I find that I'm 57 now, and
Mhm.
you've gone through a lot of life experience by the time you get to this
Yeah.
age. And one of the things that I check in with myself probably on a weekly basis now, I'm just going to call them values and beliefs, and how I align myself back to those things, and then comes the non-negotiables. And so that's also with the clients that I'm prepared to coach. If we don't have aligned values and beliefs, for instance, I'm probably not going to coach a drug dealer. I'm not going to coach
Right.
certain people that the values don't align. And I find that really holds me in good stead, because look, I do work around the world now, and it attracts haters, unfortunately, even though the work is very, very, very good. It attracts haters because it obviously triggers something within them. And so I always stop and think, let me just check in with myself. Have I said something, done something that doesn't align with my values and beliefs? It's like, no, it's good. It's on them. But it's kind of like a course correction to see, okay, this is my pathway. I haven't always done this, but I've done it now. I'm just curious now with you and how that aligns with like your personal philosophy, as well as the culture that you take into the business, because it is your name on the door. So yeah, they're the values that are in your culture as well. I just like your perspective.
So it's a great question. And I think that when I'm hiring, because I'm a business owner and I have people and employees, from employees to 1099 employees that work for me, so contractors, um, I always say that if they would come in and they would quit, would I fight for them? Right? I had a mentor one time that said, if somebody comes in and gives you their resignation, would you fight to keep them?
Mm,
And if the answer was no, then they shouldn't be working for you for at all, right? But if you wouldn't fight for them, like just let them go. And that's how I build good culture. I look at every person that's on my team and I would fight to keep them if they wanted to resign, right? And
mm,
that's how I know I've got really good people. But with my clients, let's shift the gears with my clients. I want to align myself with people. I want to work with really good people.
mm.
And so I always say, do they give me red flags when I'm, setting up a consult, when I'm interviewing with them? I think that when you get to a certain level in your skill set, that you should surround yourself with really great people.
Yeah.
And if you feel that there are some red flags that are out there, then you need to listen to the red flags. There was a time in my career where I didn't have the luxuries that I have today,
Mm.
and that I would probably just take any
Like
client,
anyone. Yeah, that's what you do, right?
right? That's what you do when you're first starting. You beggars can't be true, you can't be choosy, right? And
Yeah.
so I really felt like I had to take that. And now I can say that over the last couple of years, I have had said so many more no's than I have said yeses, just because I am not the agent for everybody,
Yeah.
right? I want to be the agent for
Always,
you.
really. Mm.
Yeah, exactly. I want to serve you well. And it's okay to say no because it's okay for you and your mental health as well. And
Do
that's
you
super
find,
important.
do you find, so I've found this interesting for me when people like come for a consultation,
Mhm.
um, they kind of think that, I don't know, maybe this isn't the right way to explain it, but you'll get what I mean. They have all the power. It's like I'm making the choice whether I'm going to pick you, Erin. So, but they don't necessarily realize. I had a client say this back to me. He said, "Man, I came into to interview you, but you spun it around and interviewed me. You were making sure that I was the right fit for you, kind of thing." So, do you get a
That a
sense
lot.
that
I,
people are?
today I had a meeting, which was really, I have a really large property that I'm going to be bringing to the market, nearly $20 million. And, this guy has owned, um, a lot of different businesses, a lot of well-known businesses. He is a master negotiator.
Mhm.
I don't think a lot of people tell him no.
Yeah.
And, I am being brought in for the fifth time to now meet with some of the agent that he trusts from another market, to sit there. And he basically told me I've never paid, full commission for a listing agent. And, for me, my fee is my fee. And
Mm,
I illustrate why it is my fee. And I also told him, I said, you want me to sell a $20 million property, but at the end of the day, you're asking me to cut my fees. If
mm,
I cut my fees, how do you expect me to protect and honor the listing that you want to sell and get the highest dollar,
mm.
right? I'm just as good, if not better, negotiator than he is at the end of the day, and I won't take less. And so I told him that. And so he did hire me, just so you know. It was today we were signing documents. But the fact of the matter is that he's never had somebody that didn't dip their commission. But
Yes.
I also said the results can be different. So you
Yeah.
have to really choose your team wisely. So I think by outlining what you ultimately bring to the table is so, so important.
Mm,
And at the end of the day, if they really don't understand your value, that's okay. I'm not the agent for them. I'm not the person for them. And that's okay.
yeah.
And I think there's power in that, being at a point in your career where you can say, you know what? It's just not going to work out.
Yes.
We don't
Yeah.
have to say, I'm busy. I've got too many clients right now, because that's like the softer way to the easier way. Maybe I'm just not the agent for you. And that's
Yeah.
okay.
Yes. And that only
Yeah.
comes with experience, doesn't it? And your own confidence in what you do bring to the table. Otherwise, it's like, oh, it would be an honor to have you as a client. Yes, I'll take off 0.5%, 1%, whatever, just so I can have you. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're the best. Yeah, kiss the ring. No, that's not. Mutual respect is a really big, important thing to be able to bring to the table. But I believe it's earned, and I am not. I always say that to my clients. Listen, I am going to earn your business. I have some clients that are like, well, I've got this and this, and I've got this development. And I want to bring you this, and I said, nope. Let's talk about this one. Let me earn your business on this one,
Mm,
and then we'll talk about the others. Because I think that's how I get all of my business, is that I knock it out of the park, but I don't want to take on too much too fast. You don't want to overpromise with people. You
yeah.
want to you want to over deliver. And I think that also you have to make sure that you also don't overdo it for yourself. If
Yes.
you take on too much, you can overwhelm yourself and it's not good. You need to take one thing at a time.
Yeah, yeah, that's great advice. Let's talk about our culture, maybe right back in the beginning, because
Yeah.
I'm sure it was a learning process. You made some mistakes and so
A
forth.
lot.
How did you build your culture to what it is that you're looking for now? How you take on people and how you nurture that? Well, let's give some people some ideas on how they can bring these tips into their own business.
I think that your number one asset are the people that you hire, the
Mm,
people that work beside you every single day. And that culture, if you don't have right, it's kind of like a foundation of a house. If you
yeah,
don't have the foundation set the right way, it's going to crumble. And when the markets are good, when the economy is good, everything's good.
Everything's good. Yeah.
Everything's great. It could be a really bad culture, but everybody's making money and everybody's happy. But
Yeah.
it's the time when the economy slips and it's softer, um, that's where true culture rises to the top. And I've been very, very lucky because I have assembled an amazing team, but it took me years to get there. When I first started, I would hire anybody with a pulse. I say, "You have a pulse? Great, you're hired." And then I'd be like, "Oh gosh, it's just not working out, you're fired." And I would make all of these mistakes. And then I had to really stop. I had to give myself a pep talk and I had to tell myself to get it together and really create and write down what I envisioned for my company. Who are the people that I wanted to hire and work with every day? Not who I wanted to work for me, but work with me every single day. Okay.
Yeah.
And I created I mapped it out and I said who I wanted to hire, what kinds of people I wanted to hire. And what I realized when I wrote it down is that I wanted to surround myself with intelligent, smart, funny, fun people were hustlers that
Mm.
really loved what they did, but weren't afraid to get their hands dirty. Okay. And so I kind of saw that when I wrote everything out. And so I said to myself, how can I find these people? That's the next thing. Like, how can I find them? So through the years, I figured out that obviously I'm working in real estate and I want to hire other real estate agents. So the best way to do that is working a deal across the table and kind of seeing them in their best craft, right? So you can obviously get agents that way by kind of recruiting others that are already doing a great job. But I wanted to kind of take it a step further and I wanted to create as a kind of a test, if you will, through the interview process to be able to take on the right people, no matter what the position was. If it was a marketing position, if it was a director of operations position, if it was a manager position, a project manager position, an agent position, whatever it was. So I established this tiered system. And what it was the first test is you send in your resume with your DISC profile. I'm
Hmm.
sure you're familiar with the DISC
Yep.
profile. A lot of people might say, what is the DISC profile? Well, this might be what the interviewee, the applicant might say as well. And if they write in and they put an email, where can I find the DISC profile? Are you
They're out.
following me? They're
Yeah.
out
Yeah.
because that's the first test. It's called problem solving. You
Mm.
go to Google, you
Yeah.
Google it.
Not hard.
Exactly. It's not hard. That kind of tells me how what your like gut is for problem solving. Don't come to me with the problems.
Yeah,
So
that's
that's
right.
the first test, right? It says send it to my director of operations, send the disc profile to my director of operations with your resume. So Sarah, my director of operations, looks at all the resumes. She maybe gets on a application for one of our positions is opening between 30 and 50 applicants. She'll go through them, she'll look at the disc profile, she'll look at their resume, and she will then probably interview about 7 to 10 of them.
Right.
She then interviews them, and our rule on the team is if it's not a hell yes, it's a hell no. So if you
Mm.
don't really like them and you're like, I just don't know, it's a no. It's
Yep.
not a yes. And so she takes the 7 to 10 and she narrows it down to three that go in front of me. I
Hmm.
have a very typical interview, and in my book, Capture the Culture, I have a whole list of culture questions that I ask them, along with other like regular, interview questions. But then I put on my test because Sarah had her test, and that's the whole DISC profile. My test, as I say, goals are so important, which they are. But tonight, Rob, send me, if you get this position, the top three goals that you want to accomplish over the next year. That a year from now, if you're sitting across the table with me, that you'd be so proud to have accomplished.
Yes.
Did notice, Rob, that I said email me tonight?
That's right. That means leave
I said it
and
once.
go and do it straight away.
So the thing is that I said it once, and you would be amazed how many people email it 2 days later
Mm.
or do not email it at all.
Yeah.
And then they'll follow up and be like, where am I in the interview process?
Yeah. Gone. Um,
Gone. So and the reason why I do that, and I say it only once, email me tonight. I don't give my email, but it's on every website and all that kind of stuff. But the reason why I say it is because listening. is the number one skill in sales. And if you're not listening to me, if you didn't hear that, you're not going to hear my clients.
Yes. Many great points there, and I think people will probably have to go back and have a listen. But one of the reasons I started recording these podcasts was because I'm sure maybe you were like this at one point. You know, you're terrified of speaking in front of people. You weren't confident in how you spoke and so forth. And I didn't speak very well. I wasn't confident in doing it. Now you can put me in front of a billion people, and I'm happy to stand up and speak. But part of me recording 2 podcasts a day was to practice speaking better, and so that I didn't use all of those filler words like so Erin, next like that, being really awkward and being comfortable to just pause and do all that kind of stuff. The other part, going to the last part you said, was about learning how to be more present with people. So, in full transparency and preparing for this interview, obviously I have a look at, well, who are you, and what's your field and everything. But then I don't put really too much work into preparing questions, because there's nothing worse than you just saying what you said. And then I'm like, so Erin, what is your definition of success? It's like, hang on, that doesn't really match what you just said. So now what I do is it forces me to actively listen to, it's like we're in the room. People say, oh, how do you handle the screen? Well, I don't even see the screen. It's like, because I'm so connected with
Right.
you. And it's so important, that presence, the active listening, because so many people, like, that's a great test that you just said, because if you are really in tune, you're there for a job, this is your career, this could be achieving your dreams. What, you didn't listen? You didn't hear that she said, email me tonight these
Mhm.
things? That's easy. Just you
Yeah,
leave, you sit in the car, you do it then. So I
exactly.
love.
Yeah. And then the third interview is they go to the sales agent. So they meet the ladies that are on my team, and they sit there in front of 10 other women and they're interviewed. And it could be intimidating. I want to see grace under pressure, right? I want to see how you, because when a seller presses you on questions, commission, objections, whatever it may be, you need to be grace under pressure. You need to be able to take the heat. You also need to be able to take the feedback. Um, I think that this allows me to know, A, can you listen? Number two, are you grace under pressure? But number three, I've got 10 women that are all asking different questions. Somebody's going to be the warm and fuzzy. Somebody's going to ask the direct questions. And I tell them, I say, interview them as much as you're interviewing, you're interviewing.
Yeah.
Um, I want that you to ask questions like, what's it like to work for Erin?
Yes.
What kind of boss is she? They will be very honest with you. I want you to know what you're getting into, because if you get on this team, I'm going to pour into you,
Yes.
right? And that's important. So every single person who interviews, all my team members who interview that applicant, they have to text Sarah, my director of ops, and myself at the end of the interview. And they need to say yes, no, and why. No peanut gallery conversations. And the reason why is because I want their gut instinct on the person. And I don't want it to change based upon
What someone else
conversations.
says. Yeah.
That's
Yes.
right. I want their gut instinct, because when I meet
Yeah.
people, I'm like, yeah, I love my gut. Like I love like what I feel. Like I know when I feel off. There's
Yeah.
something that's a little
Because
fake
that's straight away, right? You meet like
right away.
the
You
$20
know.
million
You know.
vendor, and it's like, oh, straight away.
Yep, exactly.
Mm.
Exactly. And so that way I have to have 100% buy-in. And that's where the culture comes in. Because I used to there's I call them my OGs, my original 5 sales agents. I poured into them. They heard me on the phone. They followed me around like a puppy dog. They listened to me negotiate, write verbiage, all the different things. They saw how I did it. Well, the more and more that I'm doing and more I'm selling, I'm not able to train every single person under me
Mm.
like I trained them. But now I'm raising up mentors. They're now the mentors,
Yeah.
right? So if they didn't say yes to this person, how are they supposed to be happy and positive and want to pour into that person to make them a success?
Mm.
So everybody has to say yes. And when everybody says yes, then it's a beautiful thing because they're all in it, right? And they're going to make sure that that person becomes successful. And that's how we build a very, very strong culture. That's why I have a turnover that's 7 years. It's an average of 7 years on my
Wow.
team. Yep, they stay.
Out of curiosity, if one person says no to you, it's a no?
It's a no.
Yeah, right. That's interesting. With the disc stuff, are you looking for certain qualities
Yes.
there? Like, do you want a mix, or you like, oh, I want all high D's or all high I's?
No, I don't want high D's. I used to be a very high D, and over the years, you change, right? Now I'm an elevated D, but a good I, and I've got some C in there. But it depends what I'm looking for. If I'm looking
Right.
for a transaction manager who's going to be in the office, who's, needs to be organized, I'm looking for a CS, somebody who's conscientious and steady, right? If I have a buyer's agent, I want them to be an I want them to be, really personable. I want them to have a great personality. They might not be the most organized one, but we've got somebody who will do the
Can
paperwork.
do
I
that.
need them to be
Yeah.
out there and sociable and sell, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it depends on what I'm hiring. If I'm hiring a listing manager, I want a little bit of a D in there. I want them to, be a little bit more, but I don't want them too high. There's
Yes.
one there's one boss on the team, there's one CEO of the business. But at the end of the day, I said this before, whether it's with clients or whether it's with employees, leaders in any form or fashion, any kind of entrepreneur, any kind of leader cannot be afraid to have hard conversations.
Yeah.
And in
Yeah.
fact, I love to have hard
Yeah.
conversations. I say,
Why?
bring it on.
Why? Why?
Because I want to put it all on the table. I believe that if people lock up the issues and they never talk about them, they fester.
Yeah.
And it creates, whether it's a seller, whether it's a buyer, whether it's an employee that works for me, it festers.
Mm.
Tell me what I did wrong. Tell me why you're not happy. Let's
Mm.
talk about it. Let's put it on the table. This could be a moment where I have to apologize and I have to take a step back, where I
Mm.
did something wrong. And I tell my sellers, I tell my clients, I said, I'm really good at a lot of things. I said, but I'm not a mind reader. Please make
Yeah.
me this promise that if I go too slow, if I go too fast, if I take a misstep, let me know what that is. Give me the opportunity to pivot and correct it.
What I love about that, it's so true for life though, isn't it too?
Yes,
Like putting it all on the table, and so many people don't, particularly in their intimate relationships, they're like, "Oh, I don't want to talk to you about that, Aaron. Can we just pretend that that's not really there?" But what I've learned about this, because I used to be terrified of this as well, and I would just keep it all inside. I love the opportunity for, it's not like I like conflict, but it's like, oh, we've got a problem here, Aaron. I know within 24 hours, I've taken action to address that. And that's often an uncomfortable conversation. But what I've learned is, let's just say that you or I are in an employee employer relationship. And I know by the end of this conversation, either one of us is not going to be here, or it's going to be stronger. And you've got a 50-50 chance, right? It's either a yes or it's a no. It's 50-50. But what I know 100% of the time is that I'm going to grow through the experience. And so
absolutely.
that's what I love about doing it. So I don't hesitate anymore. It's like, Aaron, we've got this issue. Let's just sit down and calmly let's just talk it through. And there's always growth. It's not always comfortable, but yeah, just like you said, I'm the first to admit, yeah, a man that says that he's wrong. It's like, I'm sorry, I got that wrong. I'm sorry, I didn't understand that that would have affected you that way. Because it's always emotion, isn't it? It's not usually factual, an error on facts. It's an error in emotion.
And
Um,
I will say for smaller teams and smaller groups and businesses, when you hire on culture and you do take time to actually have a multi-level interview system where it's a little bit longer to get hired, not the first interview and up, you're hired, that kind of thing. I
yes,
think that people, when you're having hard conversations with an employee and something is amiss, and you go in and you go, listen, I believe in you. I choose you. What's going on in your life? Tell me what's going on. Because what I'm seeing right now isn't what I saw 2 years ago.
yeah,
Something's going on. Let me help you.
right. That's
Then
right.
you come from a place where they trust you and they want to be better.
Yeah.
And, and if for some reason it's not going to be able to work out, I kind of talk about this in my book. I give an opportunity on my team. You can either, we write a PIP, a performance enhancement plan, and we give 30 days and we take a look at what it is. And if I really feel like I need to kind of get you away from the team, but and you need to get your head on straight, I will offer that you go on sabbatical. And that has worked for me for, some employees in the past.
Yeah.
And if it's absolutely a no-go and I'm not getting a pulse back from them and they just don't care anymore, then we're just at two different places and they're a wonderful person, but they're just not meant to be on my team.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. That's so good. Erin, I'm conscious of my the time
Yes.
we've got here. I've only got a couple of minutes left. We're going to
Okay.
have to connect again because this is so powerful. So, why don't we jump straight to your book? Let's talk about your
Yeah.
book and how people can connect with you, because I think what you're giving here is some incredible insights into not just who you are as an operator, but why you've been able to build like such a success. So let's quickly talk about those things. And
Yes.
I'll
So
put the links below in below.
perfect. Yep, my book is called Capture the Culture, and it is basically just a way to kind of elevate and rise above challenges. I had a background where my parents were killed in a car accident when I was a young woman,
Oh
and it
no.
kind of walks me through that tragedy because difficult days don't define us. What
Mm,
we do with them does.
yeah,
And I think that if people, everyone has stuff, death, divorces, loss, you know, losing a job, whatever it is, we all have stuff.
yeah,
We can choose to stay there or we can choose to rise of it and be grateful for what we're given because we all are lucky to have another day here. And so for me, it's about positivity and bringing a good culture to my team because people need that. People want to hire people and be surrounded with people that have a better, positive outlook on life. And
yeah,
so I have really kind of fostered something in my book and given tips and ways to get there, even if you feel like you are a boss and you are a leader, but you're just, as I say, don't have your positive pants on, you're a little bit negative, you can't get out of the slump. There are things that can kind of make you think, man, my team deserves better. I deserve better as a human. Because if I'm not the best version of myself, I can't be the best version to the people that are around me.
yes. Terrific. And your website, how can people connect with you there?
So I have two websites. I have the Erin Krueger team or erinKrueger.com, which you can kind of find us. You can find us on Instagram, the Erin Krueger team, or through my book, which is Capture the Culture on Instagram or capture-theculture.com. I will tell you on my book website, there are free downloadable materials that you can download and take tests about your culture.
Fantastic. So I will put the links in below the podcast here. Erin, this is fantastic. I wanted to dig into so many more aspects of what it is that you've got coming up. Before we hit record here, you were talking about you've got a coaching program that you're starting up at the start of next year, which sounds awesome.
I know.
I'd love to connect with you again so we can talk about some more things, not just around the program, but like I just admire your approach. We're so aligned on a lot of the mindset things here about success. And it's really exciting. We could talk for hours. So I want to really thank you today for all of these great nuggets that you've given us. And I'm going to give you the final closing word here with what would you say is the best advice you've ever received?
The best advice that I've ever received is probably, if it's not a hell yes, it's a hell no. I mean, that is like it's a little tongue in cheek, but like it puts you right on the straight way. If you don't, if it doesn't feel good to you, then don't do it.
Yeah.
If it doesn't feel right, don't hire them. If the client gives you red flags, it's probably going to end up in a lawsuit. Back away. It's just all of those things. Like if it doesn't feel right, go with your gut. And if it doesn't feel good, don't do it.
Fantastic. Great advice. Thank you so much, Aaron. This has been awesome.
Thank you so much, Rob. Take care.